Okay, just this little discussion about Azure for Students Starter, right? Basically, as a student here at Niagara College, you have a 1-year renewable subscription for free to Microsoft Azure, right? Now, I want to be pretty clear on there's a couple different choices. You're probably familiar with Azure. Anyone never heard of Azure? It's basically a Microsoft cloud service. There's all kinds of stuff that's available to do up in the cloud here with Azure. But this is the Azure for Students Starter account, underlined Starter there. There's some confusion because there's also, from earlier on, from years now, there's been an Azure for Students account without the word Starter at the end. It actually offers more features, so to speak, than the actual Starter version, but don't use it for now, please. The reason for that is, under the Starter version, all you can do is what's free, which is a protection really, because you can't accidentally start some service that costs money, right? And the danger is there's a limited amount of free credit you get with the normal Azure for Student, and we need you to have that credit available for some of the courses you're going to do next term, right? So this is the safest way to guarantee, because it used to always happen every year that a couple students would accidentally, they'd start up a SQL Server, something like that, instance going, and not realize that it costs, $17 a month or something, and pretty soon they'd used up all their $100 credit, and then they came to do the work next term and they had no credit left. So definitely make sure you're using the Starter version, right? Okay. Bit of instructions here. Just make sure you're logged in. Now, if you're here in the lab, you'll be logged into your college account. It's a no-brainer. But at home, as long as you're logged into Brightspace, that's good enough, okay? And then you just click this link here, and it'll take you right to the Azure for Students Starter offer, right? And you just click Activate, follow it through. Now, there's no point in me trying to show you this because I'm already registered, so it won't do any good, right? But it's pretty straightforward. You fill out a little form, your name, your college account, the name of your institution, Niagara College, Canada, and away you go. It's pretty straightforward and easy to get set up and running, right? Okay, just a note there that once you're in, this is the link you'll go to, portal.azure.com, right? And then you log in there using your college account, and you'll have access now to the resources, right? I just want to warn you that when you're browsing around, there's a whole education hub inside of Azure and all kinds of free software you can download and things like that. So by all means explore it. But you'll often see these popping up. Sign up now for Azure for Students, right? And notice it talks about your $100 free credit and so on. No, don't do that, right? Because we don't want to get into using up those credits at this point in time. Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do, though, is I've downloaded Visual Studio, our latest version of the Medical Office. Now here, I'm going to publish this. So it's going to be live on the internet, so anybody can come and see it, right? This is great. So as you're working on your work, you can actually publish it and, send a link to all your friends and family and say, hey, come and look at the app that I'm building, right? And they can come and see it. Now, in order to publish, though, I have to be logged in with that same account that we used to set up the account in Azure. So that would be your college account, right? So I'm just going to click the sign in button here. I'll pause my recording because I have to do my own sign in. Okay, so I've logged in. There we go. So I see my account. Good. All right. Now what I might do is I just downloaded it, so I haven't run it yet. So I'll just run it locally first, make sure it's built and working fine, and away I go. Yes, of course I trust you. Of course you can have my firstborn son. Okay. I'll have to go get him. He's in Calgary. All right, so there's the app up and running. Okay, do I have data seeded? Yeah, I do, and so on. So, but I'm running locally here, of course, right? But I want to run out there live on the internet for everyone to come and enjoy my application, right? So that's what we're going to do. So all I have to do is right-click the app up here and select Publish. When I do Publish, then I get a little wizard to step me through the process. Notice I don't even need to go into the portal first. That is an option. I could go into the Azure portal. I could create the basically the spot to upload to up there, but I can do it all from right here in Visual Studio. So I want Azure, host my application in the Microsoft Cloud. Click Next. Now there's a few choices here, but I want Azure App Service in Windows. Okay, I'm not using containers or anything else, virtual machines, just an app service. But make sure I check Windows, not Linux. And there we go. So it's going to look for what resources I already have, but I'm assuming I don't have one, so I can just click Create New. I think you're limited to 10 resources. I don't have that many, so I should be able to make a new one. Okay, now you see it's got Microsoft Office, the name of my project, and then a timestamp here, hours, minutes, days, seconds, microseconds, whatever, right? So that's what it's suggesting as the name. I'm going to take, well, it doesn't matter. I can leave all that there. It doesn't really matter. Okay, make sure it's under Azure for Students Starter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new resource group and a new hosting plan for this app. Okay. The idea of a resource group, well, for one thing, it's very handy in the future, because if you want to pick up your whole group of resources and move it, say, from one subscription, now you're really happy with it, you're not a student anymore, but you want to maybe keep it live up there. So you're going to move it over to a pay-as-you-go account where you give a credit card, right? Pay your $5 a month or whatever to keep it up and running, right? So okay, then it's easy to just pick up the whole resource group and move it at once, right? Also, you can delete a whole resource group at once, which is helpful as well. I'm going to make a new resource group, MORG. It doesn't add anything to the name, so I always put _RG. It's just my own way of making it easy to identify that this is a resource group name. I don't think I've used that one, so I'm good. Next, I'll create a new hosting plan as well, right? Okay. Now this one, there's a couple things to really point out here. I could leave the name the same. I have to choose a location, okay? By the way, the more you use Azure, I actually had this happen once. I wasn't paying enough attention, and I first of all created a SQL Server instance, right? And I did it by accident in Vietnam, okay? And then I created my web application in, I think it was Eastern US. Canada wasn't available yet at that point in time. So, it actually worked. I actually was able to connect the database across the globe, and it actually functioned. It was a little bit slow, okay? It was much better when I moved the database service right to the same server farm that had the actual application. But anyway, I don't have to worry about that because we're going to use our local SQLite instead anyway. But Central Canada is probably good. And notice our choices for size is only free, right? Remember, we're on the starter version, so we only have free choices, which is ideal anyway, okay? If I was using the full Azure for Student, okay, then I'd have a whole list of different sizes, each one costing a different amount of money per month and so on. So I'm going to stick with free. All right, now before I click Create, notice this at the bottom it says Use Unique Default Host Name, okay? What that will do is it'll create like a big long GUID that is part of the actual URL of the application. Great for making sure it's a unique name, right? But it makes it a huge, long, ugly-looking URL, which I don't personally want. So I'm going to uncheck that. So it's up to me. Then this will become the URL with .azurewebsites.net at the end. So I don't want this big, long name. I'm going to take that out. And I don't know. I'm just going to put David. Hey, it's my URL. I can have whatever I want, right? Now you notice it's doing a little circle there. It did a check to make sure that it is unique, that URL does not exist yet, but I'm okay. Okay, so I can just click Create. By the way, I used David because the other day in my demo I used 2025, Medical Office 2025, but I don't want to destroy that one just to do this demo, so that's why I picked a different name. I'll just delete this whole thing when I'm done. So we're creating the app service. This doesn't take too long. Watch me say that and it'll take 5 minutes today. Now I'll pause the recording just in case. All right, good. So Azure for Students Starter, here's my Medical Office David, okay? And that's going to be the actual URL with .azurewebsites.net. So I'll just click Finish. It'll just come up here and finish creating my published profile. And good, I can just close that. All right, now I have not actually published yet, right? It's created the published profile. Let me point out a couple things you see here in the profile. See, my configuration is release. Okay, I'm usually just running in debug. So, if you want, you can switch your drop-down list here to release anytime you want. I'm going to publish in release using .NET 9. Development mode. There's two main choices. It's gotten better and better. It used to be I always had to change this option here. I'll click the little pencil there. I used to be able to have to go self-contained. Now, a self-contained deployment mode means I'm going to supply everything. My copy of .NET Framework, my copy of every NuGet package, my copy of everything that it takes to run the application. Greatly increases the amount of data I have to upload, right? Fortunately, I don't have to do that. I can go back to framework dependent because they've increased the amount of resources that are there by default, right? So we're good. These other options here I don't really need to worry about at this stage because I'm not even using a separate database, just my own SQL Lite, right? So, okay, I can just cancel actually because it didn't really change anything. The other thing I might do under service dependencies, it looks and it sees, oh, you've got everything in place to use SQL Server, right? So it's prepared to have that as a service dependency. It really doesn't matter if I take this out, but if I want to, I can just say, ignore for this profile, and it won't hurt at all because I'm not going to use it anyway. All right, that's it. I can just click publish, and it's going to work away at it. It's validating, checking if we can run successfully, etc., right? And it'll take a couple minutes to go through this whole process. Okay, so it didn't take too long. It's finished. It just basically bundled up all the DLLs and sent them up there to the website. And now here it is live on the internet. You can go to this URL if you want to as well. And you should see medicalofficedavid.azurewebsites.net. Of course, the first time it's running, it's building the database, seeding the data, and everything else. But there we are. We are up and running live on the internet. Okay. And I can filter, I can search for, all the patients of this given doctor. I can sort by different things, go to my pages. Everything's working just as we would expect it to. I can clear everything, go back to the entire list, change my page size, whatever I want to do. Everything's working just as you would expect, but it's live on the internet now, right? Okay, so it's as simple as that, right? Yes, it is. Let me even show you. I can even leave this open. Okay, I can just minimize it. Come back to Visual Studio. You know what? I just noticed something there. Actually, let me bring it up again. What browser am I in? If I go back here, if I go to the last page, this moves up to the top. If I change my page size, let me even go to patients because I've got more data here. What if I go to a nice big page size, like 40 or 50? Well, then to get to the paging nav bar, I've got to scroll all the way to the bottom. So I think, I remember there was that discussion about how I could just keep this nav bar at the bottom of the screen. Maybe I want to try that out. Let's just see what the difference is like in this live version, right? Okay, so I'm going to make a quick change here. I remember I did that. If I go into views, into shared, that's my partial view for my paging nav bar, right? Okay, now let me just think, what does I have to do here? Let me bring up my little reference file to help me out. Yeah, that's right. I'm just going to add a bit of a style. Okay, I'm just going to add a class here to the nav itself. The nav, let me make it a little bigger at the top here. And that will actually fix it to the bottom. Simple as that. But it'll be in the bottom left corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap everything inside here, inside of a div. Okay, so I'll cut the closing div out. And you know what? Because of the Razor code that's in here, it's not going to fix my indentation for me automatically. So I'm going to actually do this. I'll just tab all this in manually, come down and close my div. Okay, so there we go. But this div needs a class of its own. Okay, container fluid, justify content center. All right, I'll just save that. And let's come back here. I can just publish again. Now it'll be much quicker this time because it doesn't have to send up everything. It'll actually just compile the DLL the main DLL for the project and basically just send that up, right? Publish started, publish succeeded, right? And actually it'll open it again, okay? Oh, I meant to make one more change. I meant to change my delete the database to false. Now, it wouldn't have actually done it because it's still live, right? But if it had gone to sleep because nobody had accessed it for, say, 20 minutes or so, then the next time somebody did, it would drop and recreate the database. So I might change that as well. But now we can see the difference here. Okay, notice it remembered my cookie because it hasn't been that long. But there's my paging nav bar at the bottom, so I can scroll up and down, but it's always available, right? Even going to the last page. And if I change the paging size, let's go right down to something really, really small. Okay, still it just stays right here at the bottom all the way through. So maybe I like that better, maybe I don't. If I don't, I can just go back, change it, and publish again. Simple as that, right? Okay, maybe I will make one more change. Come down to program.cs, down here. Yeah, I'll change delete database to false. Right? No need to do that every single time. Okay, and there was one other thing I thought, oh, I'm going to change the home page here. The home index. Live on Azure. Okay. And I'll publish once more. Well, the final thing I'm going to show you is this. Okay, great. And we see now it said right there, live on Azure, right? So all my updates are up live for the whole world to see. I don't really need these other tabs open. My point next is this, right? This is great. So I've got this project running locally in Visual Studio on this particular PC in the lab. Now I want to pick it up and take it with me home, right? Or to another lab computer. Well, where's all this published stuff saved, and will it work? It is saved here in Properties. Right here you see Publish Profiles and Service Dependencies. That contains everything for actually publishing the application. Now, if I pick this up and go to another computer, the other question I ask is, will it work? Will the publishes work the same way? The answer is no, it won't. Okay. So, no, if I took it to a different computer and tried to publish, it would just come up with some sort of a login dialog box and forget it. You're not going to be able to do it, okay? So, there's a simple and easy fix though. Because the publish profile was something we created in Azure first, right? So all I would have to do, if we're again saying I've gone to a different computer, I just come in here and I delete these two folders, okay? Again, they're under Properties, Publish Profiles and Service Dependencies. Delete, yes. They're now gone, right? Okay. Now let me just make another change. I don't know. Live on my Azure, just so you can see that something has changed, okay? All right, that's good. Now, I want to publish again. How do I do it now? I don't have my publish profile anymore. Well, I just right-click, come down to Publish in the menu, and I go through the same steps, okay? Except this time, when I come to Azure App Service, click Next, it's going to go look and see, oh, look at that. There is my medical office MORG, right? I just called it MO for medical office. Sorry, I got too many up there. And there's my medical office, David. That's all I have to do. I select it. So I've gone to Azure and says, hey, don't worry, I know how to publish it. I've saved your publish profile. You can get a copy from here. So I just select it there and click Finish. It will basically download and recreate the publish profile locally in my copy of Visual Studio on the PC that I'm on now. And then once more, I can feel free to publish. So that's the trick to picking up your application, going to a different PC Fortunately, all the hard work of creating a published profile is saved for you in the cloud, right? And there we go. I'm live on my Azure, everything working. Now, there we are. Because I haven't let it go very long. Even my cookies are all maintained and so on and so forth. All right, well, that's basically the end of the demo. But now you know how to go about getting your work live up there on the internet. That's going to come in handy. It's kind of just a fun thing to do right now. I think I will actually ask you to publish yours to make sure you know how to do it before the end of the term, right? You don't have to do it right now, technically speaking. But, you know, when you're working with your clients next term, when you're building an application for a real-world client, you're definitely going to be publishing all the time.